Welcome back. We continue our coverage on the war with Iran with some breaking news. U.S. forces have seized another tanker linked with smuggling Iranian oil. The Defense Department released this video of helicopters lowering forces onto the deck of this tanker called Majestic X. This is in the Indian Ocean, and it comes one day after Iran seized two commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian state TV aired dramatic video of armed masked commandos here boarding the ships. Iran says it's holding 15 people from the vessels, but adds that they are safe and unharmed. Meanwhile, a top military official has been fired as the naval blockade of Iran continues. Navy Secretary John Phelan is out. A White House official tells CBS News that President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth agreed on the need for new leadership. CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us live right now from Tel Aviv. And Charlie, what can you tell us about the timing of Phelan's removal?
There's a lot to cover there, Mugo. So we are in the middle of, a major conflict, and most importantly, the largest naval blockade that we've seen, in a generation or decades. So the removal, the ouster, the firing, whatever, of John Phelan, the Secretary of the Navy, it comes at a time when there's a conflict underway. But I have to frame this because Secretary of the Navy is not really involved in the day-to-day operations of what's going on here. That comes down to the combatant command, and that is Admiral Brad Cooper, who is in charge of CENTCOM. It makes sense that he's a Navy admiral, and he's in charge of what's going on here. So how this is going to impact what's going on here, it really goes down to Admiral Cooper and the combatant command, the CENTCOM, not necessarily removal. But you have to ask that question, like when we're in the middle of a conflict here, and the largest naval blockade that the United States has seen in decades, why do it now? This has to do with relationships. It has to do with what's going on. And he would not have been removed if everything was going okay with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. So what does it mean in terms of operational structure here? Not a lot. But in terms of what's going on inside the Pentagon, maybe those are larger questions to be asked.
And I also want to ask about his potential successor here. I know, as you mentioned, this is not going to have a huge impact on what's going on in the war right now. But we've also seen the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, he's let a lot of people go. So it almost begs the question, is there any comfortability when it comes to a lot of the higher ups in the Pentagon right now?
Yes. So when we look at the removal of the Secretary of the Navy, again, this individual, John Phelan, had no experience. He has never served. He's not part of the military structure. A few weeks ago or earlier this month, Secretary Hegseth removed General Randy George, the head of the Army. That's a much bigger dismissal because General George had been a vet for 4 decades. I've met him, spent a lot of time with him, and this is a combat veteran. That is going to be more of have more of an impact on what's happening here. But in terms of Phelan himself, he's not part of the, as I said, the day-to-day. So it all underlines what's going on inside the Pentagon, because we look at the Pentagon and the administration and what's going on there. We can speculate of what's going on with Hegseth or Secretary Hegseth and what's going on there at the Pentagon. But what is happening here in terms of executing what's happening, you have the Navy, the Secretary of the Navy, and the Army, the head of the Army, those being removed doesn't necessarily have an effect on what's happening here, because this isn't an Army operation. This is largely being executed by the Air Force and the Navy, not necessarily the Army. So it's not going to have an immediate impact of what's happening and what's underway here in this scenario.
That clears it up. Charlie D'Agata in Tel Aviv for us today. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.